Okay, good evening, colleagues. You're welcome to another wonderful day of academic exploration. I think last week we stopped at social action theory, which is, of course, a sociological-based approach to organizational behavior and management, and view organization from the standpoint of individual members, which is, of course, recognized as the authors. So individual goals and interpretation of work situation are important in explaining behavior of people. Conflict of interest is seen as normal. Conflict of interest is seen as normal. That is to say that managers can actually permit conflict, can also permit divergent views within the organization. So conflict of interest is seen as normal behavior and part of organizational life. It is a method of analyzing social relation within an organization. Social relation, how people relate to one another within an organization. That is, of course, the social action theory. Then we'll move to the next one, which is, of course, the unitarist and pluralist perspective. In terms of the unitarist perspective, the organization is perceived or viewed as an integrated and harmonious whole, with managers and other staff sharing common interests and objectives. So under the unitary organization, there is no opposition. There is a kind of consensus and, in fact, an understanding between the managers and, of course, the staff members. Conflict is not needed in a unitarist organization. Whereas in a pluralist, from a pluralist perspective, it views organization as made up of powerful and competing subgroups with their own legitimate loyalties, objectives, and, of course, leaders. These competing subgroups are almost certain to come into conflict. That is to say, the pluralist perspective is of the view that within an organization, conflicts are bound to occur or into competing groups within the organization. So that is in terms of the unitarist and the pluralist perspective. And I would also like you to read some of the lecture notes that I have sent to you with regards to this particular constructs. Now we come to the action theory. Action theory is actually a sociological approach which studies the relationship between meaning and action. It's the relationship between meaning and action that unfold within that. It uses concepts from system theory to analyze large-scale behavior, behavior in terms of the role of people within an organization, behaviors in terms of relationship between people within an organization, and of course in terms of the structure of the organization, organizational structure, the way an organization is structured, who relate to who within an organization. Organization can be a hierarchical structure, like I explained to you last time, and it can also be a flat structure. It can also have a kind of boundaryless structure. So action theory looks into that, and of course processes within an organization. What do we do? How do we do things? How do we turn raw materials into finished products? That is part of the process within an organization. So action theory is a sociological approach which studies the relationship between meaning and action and uses concepts from system theory to analyze large-scale behavior within an organization. Now we'll move to the next aspect, which is, of course, postmodernism. Postmodernism, in terms of the concept, came actually from a lot of authorities such as Giddens, which says that organization is less less the expression of planned thought. That is to say, in terms of postmodernism, things are not planned already. Things can change, It's less the expression of a planned thought and calculative action, and more of defensive reaction to forces intrinsic to the social body which constantly threaten the stability of organized life. Of course, postmodernism actually became a construct within the period of globalization. The fact that there's rapid and constant changes to how we live our life and to phenomena across the globe. So on the basis of that, postmodernism does not actually perceive things as planned, perceive things as something that can just come to interrupt our way of life or our way of doing things. Now we'll move to the next slide. In fact, these are the hierarchies in terms of development and managerial theory. As you can see there, you can see the classical theory on top, which of course give birth to bureaucracy and of course Taylorism, bureaucracy and Taylorist idea. And of course from that you can see of course the human relation approach, which has to do with neo-human resources, human relation approach. And of course in terms of neo-human relation approach, we have been able to study theory Y and Z, and of course hierarchy of need theory in our previous discussion. And of course the system approach, the social action approach, and of course contingency approach, which of course relates to postmodernism. All right. So relevance of management theory, or relevance to management and organization behavior. What are the relevance of all these theories to management and organization? The main important, the importance of theory can be placed in this one. Different categories of theory illustrates the complex nature of the study and practice of management. It shows the complex nature and practice of management, all these categories of theories. And of course, they provide a setting in which to view the field of management and organization behavior. These theories that we have actually discussed provide a setting in which to view the field of management and of course organization behavior. They also assist organizations to analyze and identify problem areas within the organization. I see analysis and identification of problem areas within organization. And of course, they enable managers to select ideas. Theory enable managers to select ideas from a range of approaches which best suit the requirement of the job. I see. So that is that with regards to the relevance, in fact, the important, why theory is good or why theory is important to managers. Caveats to be noted. One have to also be cautious, or one have to also take note of certain intricacies related to theories. Various approaches represent a progression of ideas, not competing ideas. So we must know that all these ideas that we have shared is actually a progression of ideas and not competing ideas. They don't compete with one another. It's just progression. One theory leads to the other. So one can actually utilize different theory in a kind of symbiotic order, mixing them wherever the need arises. And of course, idea of early writers may still have relevance. We cannot say because an idea came after an old idea, then that actually renders the old idea irrelevant. In fact, current idea can be used also in symbiotic way with old ideas. In fact, the current idea actually emerged from the previous ideas of other authorities. So categorization tend to be arbitrary. Can you see? The categorization are arbitrary because to a great extent we cannot say that it is a watertight compartment categorization. It is arbitrary in the sense that one may come actually before the other, but it just depends on how it was analyzed. So it's not fixed or cast on stone, you know. Then the next one is theoretical approach may be based on cultural assumption. Most of these theoretical approach may be based on the culture of the propanders or those who have propanded it within different environments. For instance, if we talk about scientific Taylorism, it's based on the ideas of the Americans, the capitalist concept of utilizing labor. And of course, that is why we notice a lot of exploitation also in the Taylorist approach. And the same thing applies to also the concept of bureaucracy. We can see that somehow it is also informed by the environment in terms of leadership. When we try to link it or relate it now to some of the leadership concepts, you see that there is a kind of hierarchy in terms of leadership, a kind of power distance within the leadership in the United States of America. So theory approaches may be based on just cultural assumptions. The culture of a particular country or a particular region where the theory evolved actually takes shape or covers most of the theories that have been discussed. All right. Then we'll move to the next one, the importance of cultural context. Traditionally, the greatest aspiration of researcher is to discover objective, universalistic principles of behavior. So it is actually the interest of researchers, it is actually the interest of scientists to actually discover objective, universalistic principles of behavior. The tacit assumption behind this is that these principles may be discovered without reference to cultural context. I see. For instance, somebody in America who is propounding an idea may think it's applicable to someone in South Africa. Or somebody in England may think his theory may be applicable to someone in Nigeria. But in actual sense, there could be some cultural context to most of this. So keep that in mind that at times those propounding theories are always of the thought that they are propounding a universal theory. But in actual sense, there could be some cultural impact or how the theory affects different culture may differ. Value of management theory. Management thinkers still have a lot to tell us. Can you see? Management thinkers still have so much to tell us. You don't have to believe everything they say, but they may at least offer stimulation. They might provoke senior managers into abandoning complacency and trying to see problems in a new light. Can you see? So most of these thinkers, in fact, we cannot take all their views and all their perspective for granted. Can you see? So although we may not take everything they're talking about, but sometimes most of their concept may help us in shaping our own managerial thought and our own managerial practices. Is that clear? Fantastic. All right. So you have your assignment there. See if you can practice it by yourself and relate it to what you have studied. Specify the most important key features associated with the method of operation, structure, and management of each of the following organizations: a 6-star luxury international hotel, major civil service department, medical research university, maternity hospital, motor car manufacturer, etc. I think this actually, you can ignore this assignment because it will be relevant after you have actually completed your chapter 3. Thank you very much.